I'm proud to be Canadian today, and it's been a while since I've been able to say these words. Pierre Poilievre delivered his very best speech in his political career, over 20-year career. Today, he completely dismantled Mark Carney's Davos speech. He not only provided Canadians with hope, but he provided clear solutions and a plan to get our country back on top. If you believe in miracles, we just witnessed it. Canada is about to win and win big. How is mainstream media gonna be able to contain this powerful speech and message? His speech has already been clipped and shared, reaching millions upon millions of views. It's gonna be hard to put the lid back on this one. You're going to want to stick around for this report. This may be one of the most important reports I've ever made. Let's get into this report. Let's go. Make no mistake. China is no substitute for the United States of America.
As President Kennedy said when he was addressing the Canadian Parliament, geography has made us neighbors. History has made us friends. Economics has made us partners. Necessity has made us allies. Those whom nature hath so joined together, let no man put asunder. That insight captures a reality deeper than any temporary dispute. Canada's prosperity and security are inseparable from a stable relationship with the United States. And that is why we should not declare a permanent rupture with our biggest customer and closest neighbor in favor of a strategic partnership for a new world order with Beijing, a regime the Prime Minister himself said was the biggest threat to Canada just a year ago. Now, we seek no fight with China or its people, who make up a brilliant and extraordinary civilization. But its government and its proxies have kidnapped our citizens, stolen our technology, interfered in our elections, and pushed fentanyl into our streets. Canada should talk and trade where prudent, but never make the mistake of confusing engagement with dependency. China is not a substitute for the United States of America.
I couldn't have said it any better. And I've been waiting for Pierre Poilievre to make this type of announcement for the entire year. If he spoke like this before the last election, Conservatives would have won the election. It's never too late. This is so refreshing. With 75% of all our trade going down to the United States and millions of jobs that are at stake, we have no choice but to be friends with our closest neighbor and ally. Plus, we share our cultures together. So Mark Carney doing a fear campaign against Donald Trump in order to get votes is unacceptable because there are so many families that rely on the trade. But now, if you thought that was good, just wait till you see Pierre Poilievre completely dismantle Mark Carney's Davos speech.
Engagement. Conservatives stand in favor of a free trade agreement with India and deeper ties with other countries. But diversification must be grounded in realism. Not all partners are interchangeable. The Prime Minister proclaimed in the Davos speech that he wanted a new middle power alliance. Actually, there's nothing new about it at all. We already have that. We've had it for years. In fact, Canada already has free trade with over 50 other countries, and most of them are middle powers. We should look to deepen those relationships, but their markets are already open to us. But the problem, here's the problem, and here's the irony. The problem is not that these countries block our products from coming in, it's that our own government blocks our products from getting out. And that is the major trade barrier. Signing meaningless communiques or more stagecraft masquerading as statecraft won't fix that reality. In fact, some of the worst tariffs imposed on Canada today are those imposed by the government here. Slow permits, changing rules, high taxes, outright bans on shipping oil off our northwest BC coast. We have the second slowest building permits anywhere in the OECD. It now takes 19 years to get a mine approved. None of that has changed in the last year.
And Mark Carney was given Bill C-5 by the Conservatives to move at unimaginable speeds. The only thing they've done in 1 year time is open one single office of projects and national interests and employ Dawn Farrell over $500,000, and she has done absolutely nothing. In a whole year, they haven't approved a single project. High-paying salaries, one office of national interest. When he said unimaginable speeds, what he meant is unimaginable stoppages. And you have no idea what the Liberals did next. Canada just imported LNG from guess who? Australia, the furthest country on planet Earth from Canada, 25,000 kilometers away across the ocean, but only 4,000 away from Alberta, but somehow they chose to get LNG from Australia. Remember Justin Trudeau for a decade saying there's no business case for Canada's LNG? And now we're buying LNG from the furthest place imaginable. Imagine how much CO2 is required in order to burn bunker fuel all the way across the planet. Meet Michael Kovrig. He gives a warning about China, saying we don't want to get in bed with China.
It's crucial to recognize that the CCP's objectives include dividing and weakening the West and making China the preeminent global power. General Secretary Xi Jinping himself has articulated a geoeconomic strategy to seize the commanding heights of advanced technology and manufacturing and increase other countries' dependence on China while minimizing China's reliance on others. That is not a free trade agenda. It's aggressive mercantilism that's ultimately harmful to Canada's interests.
That's right. And guess who else spoke out about China? Mark Carney's the godfather of Chrystia Freeland's son. Yet Chrystia Freeland here is against doing a deal with China. Uh-oh. Did Mark Carney not tell her that we signed an MOU with China?
Really ironic, and I personally would say is sad, is China today, when it talks to countries like Canada, is casting itself as the reliable partner. As a country that particularly middle powers like Canada can trust, can lean on, that if you do a deal with China, it's a deal that has meaning. And China is also casting itself as the defender of this international order based on rules that the U.S. created. Now, my own view is we need to be a little bit skeptical of commitments from China to do that. I was foreign minister when, in retaliation for Canada's decision to honor an extradition treaty with the United States, 2 Canadians were illegally seized, arrested by China, effectively held hostage. International experts concluded that their treatment amounted to torture. That is not the behavior of a reliable partner. But for me, a really terrible thing that's happening right now is a lot of people, a lot of Canadians are now coming to the conclusion that Beijing can be trusted more than Washington. I think that's really sad, and I don't think that's in America's national interest.
Can you actually believe that Chrystia Freeland came out against China? Then Pierre Poilievre drops the hammer on Mark Carney. He has a solution to deal with China and get a win with Donald Trump.
And today, I am proposing that Conservatives will fight for a tariff-free auto pact with the United States, with shared protections against Chinese imports. In short, here's the deal. We should agree to keep Chinese vehicles out if Americans agree to let Canadian vehicles in.
Now we are talking. Meanwhile, today in the House of Commons, Adam Van Coverden explains why you are paying astronomical prices at the grocery store. Canada's food inflation is 7.3%, and it's only 2.9% in America.
Canadians are sick and tired of these alternative conservative facts from the opposition, Mr. Speaker. We all know that food costs too much, but instead of exploiting the challenges that are facing Canadians right now, the Conservatives should do a little bit of reading and look into why food costs too much, Mr. Speaker. All the research indicates that 85% of the food inflation is due to imported factors like war and tariffs and extreme weather due to climate change, something the Conservatives refuse to acknowledge and don't believe in, Mr. Speaker. Look, the groceries and essentials benefit will help 12.6 million Canadians. Why won't the Conservatives get on board and help a Canadian for a change?
Oh, that is rich. Help a Canadian for a change. This guy is a fool. Adam says the Conservatives should read a book. Adam should probably use his eyeballs. So you're telling me Japan has zero sea change? Or what about the UK at 3.6%? US just south of us has zero weather events whatsoever. Germany, Italy, and France are like a fraction of what Canada is. Canada has the #1, absolutely crushing it when it comes to food inflation. We just found out something else today. Hold on to your lattes and Snickers bars.
The report is warning child poverty in Canada is on the rise, reversing years of progress. A recent report found nearly 30,000 children fell into poverty last year. Researchers say the country is approaching poverty levels not seen since 2017, suggesting that at the current pace, it would take nearly 400 years to eliminate child poverty completely. The report makes several recommendations, including strengthening the National Poverty Reduction Plan, boosting the Canada Child Care Benefit, and investing more in child care and housing.
We are so cooked in this country. 400 years to reverse child poverty in Canada? That's like saying it's never gonna happen. In fact, if we continue to elect these liberals, every single child in this country will be in poverty. I'm a data guy, so let's take a look at these numbers. Number of children under the age of 18 with food insecurity households. 2.5 million Canadian children are living with food insecurity in a so-called G7 country. We have the #1 amount of fresh water. We are the second largest landmass on planet Earth. We have the third largest oil reserves. We have absolutely everything the world needs. Yet we have 2.5 million children that can't even eat. While our children in Canada go hungry, Mark Carney announced an additional $2 billion to Ukraine. Let's just put this into perspective here. Canada's projected deficit this year is $78 billion. We've sent $25.5 billion to Ukraine. That's 33% of our deficit. Imagine we spent that money to feed our children. But don't worry, Canada. We got Pierre Poilievre. This is a guy with a vision. This is a guy with a plan. He's speaking common sense today. This is what Canada needs.
As President Kennedy said when he was addressing the Canadian Parliament, geography has made us neighbors. History has made us friends. Economics has made us partners. Necessity has made us allies. Those whom nature hath so joined together, let no man put asunder. That insight captures a reality deeper than any temporary dispute. Canada's prosperity and security are inseparable from a stable relationship with the United States. And that is why we should not declare a permanent rupture with our biggest customer and closest neighbor in favor of a strategic partnership for a new world order with Beijing, a regime the Prime Minister himself said was the biggest threat to Canada just a year ago. Now, we seek no fight with China or its people, who make up a brilliant and extraordinary civilization. But its government and its proxies have kidnapped our citizens, stolen our technology, interfered in our elections, and pushed fentanyl into our streets. Canada should talk and trade where prudent, but never make the mistake of confusing engagement with dependency. China is not a substitute for the United States of America.
All I have to say is this is my Prime Minister. Not only did Pierre Poilievre provide the best speech of his entire political career, he offered unity and solutions. He says that the best way for Canada to take on Donald Trump and the US and the renegotiation of USMCA is to work together as a team.
The best leverage we have, though, is to be united here at home. All political parties love Canada. The Democrats, Conservatives, and Liberals love it a little differently than the Bloc Québécois, but even they want the best for their constituents. And the best way for us to become unbreakable in our negotiations and our discussions with other countries is to work to be united here at home. And that is why Conservatives are proposing a new all-party committee, a team, a task force that will work together as part of an effort to defend and fight for Canada in the CUSMA review. And we will put forward members to that team that will act in good faith for the benefit of Canada above the benefit of party.
What do you think, Canada? Will Mark Carney want to work together with all parties in order to negotiate a win with Donald Trump? The ball's in Mark Carney's court. And if he declines this gesture to work together, the House of Cards may be coming down on Mark Carney and the Liberals. What a beautiful and masterful strategy from Pierre Poilievre. Let's work together and get a win with Donald Trump. Pierre Poilievre was on absolute fire today. He brought more solutions to the table. This next solution not only strengthens our negotiations with Donald Trump, but in an event of a full-out war, we would be able to defend ourselves. This is what you call leadership.
Guaranteed access to critical minerals is about more than economics. It's about power and security. Canada has 10 of the 12 NATO-defined defense minerals right here under our feet. We possess one of the greatest energy endowments in the world. No modern economy or military can function without those materials and that energy. And that is why Conservatives are proposing today the creation of a new strategic energy and minerals reserve that would store up and stockpile these necessary materials so that we would have them in abundance in the event of a war, a crisis, or a supply disruption. Such reserves would strengthen Canada's resilience and our negotiating position, giving us more unbreakable leverage while they remain sovereign assets that belong to us.
Wow. What do you think, Canada? This seems like a no-brainer idea. And let's never forget the partnership and friendship we've had with the United States.
Canada and the United States have built probably the greatest partnership any two countries have ever built in the history of the world. That partnership remains profoundly in the interests of both our peoples and both our countries. And it's important to distinguish between governments and people. Politicians come and go. People remain. The miner in Appalachia, the energy worker in Texas, the engineer in California, they do not wake up every day asking how they can stick it to the Canadians. That's just the reality. The American people are not our adversaries. In fact, survey results demonstrate that Americans overwhelmingly have a favorable view of Canada and consider our two nations to be friends. That goodwill, by the way, may be our most important strategic strength going into these talks.
You wouldn't know it. If you opened up the paper of the mainstream media, their 24-hour attack has had a profound negative impact on Canadians and their perception on the United States. The most latest Nanos poll has the United States, which poses the greatest threat to Canada's sovereignty right now. China only 15%, Russia 14%, and they're invading Europe right now. India 4% and Iran 2%. You can't make any of this stuff up. And this is proof that 24-hour coverage on how scary Donald Trump is and he's coming over with tanks has created a virus. Stephen Guilbeault told Canadians last year that we're going to reach peak oil in Canada, so we don't need any more pipelines.
The regulator, as well as the International Energy Agency, are telling us that probably by 2028, 2029, demand for oil will peak globally, and it will also peak in Canada. So as far as I know, there are no investors right now. There are no companies that are saying that they want to build.
We got some brand new data that came out today. Global crude oil consumption is going up on a rocket ship. There's no leveling off whatsoever. We haven't reached peak oil for another 25, 30 years guaranteed. And you're not going to believe this one. After Elizabeth May approved Mark Carney's budget, keeping these liberals alive, she has a message for you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth May, leader of the Green Party of Canada, and I'm really honored to serve as the Member of Parliament for Saanich Gulf Islands. I'm something of a parliamentary nerd. I know the rules. I love democracy, and I think democracy is threatened right now. Mark Carney is new as an MP. He has a lot of experience in the world as a banker, and he's very smart, but he needs to really pay attention to the importance of parliamentary democracy. Just because he can push through bills with a bulldozer doesn't mean he should. We have massive bills being carried now. For the first time in my experience as an MP, bills are carried that allows the bill itself to break other laws that are already in place. This isn't a good idea. It's not prudent. We need to study bills properly, not bulldoze them through. I'm asking for Canadians to pay attention to what's happening here in Parliament. It's not making headlines, but it should. Democracy itself is being bulldozed.
Who knew? Who knew the democracy itself in Canada was being bulldozed? Half of Canadians could have told Elizabeth May that we're seeing floor crossers throw out 80,000 votes in the trash can. Of course, just the bulldozer is occurring. I got 3 more small clips for you before we end this report. Pierre Poilievre is dropping straight facts. We are making America rich. There is no trade imbalance.
Americans went from driving globalization to believing that they were its victim. Zero-sum mercantilism came roaring back to life. President Trump has sought to overturn the trading system that previous American presidents had championed and even created. Now, some of this correction, in fairness, was overdue, but it missed the target by going after countries like Canada, which were not the problem. What President Trump says about Canada is wrong. Our trade surplus does not represent exploitation by Canada of the United States of America. Quite the opposite, in fact. It is the result of us selling very good and very well-priced, in fact, below market-priced raw materials, which America then upgrades and turns into massive profits for its economy. Ironically, U.S. workers gain 6-figure salaries, turning our raw meat material into profit to their country, and they owe a big debt of gratitude to politicians and bureaucrats in Canada who have blocked us from building the necessary infrastructure to take those resources to world markets.
Ain't that the truth? The liberals have been blocking our prosperity for a decade, making Americans rich. And the best part about today is CBC acknowledges that that was the best speech Pierre Poilievre has ever done in his entire political career.
So do you want to respond to why it took so long for this kind of speech to land?
Well, I mean, he wouldn't have to give the speech now if Mark Carney got it right and said that he was going to sort this all out by July 1st. But clearly, we still continue on. I think it needed to be said because so many people were asking to know exactly what his stance was.
So do you want to respond to
Oh, and did we ever find out where his stance was? It's called a win for Canada. Lisa Raitt is bang on. What exactly did Pierre Poilievre say today?
What Pierre was really talking about is he set, I believe, the standard for what a deal with the United States should look like. And that deal is tariff-free. And that's what he's saying to the government. After everything we've been through, after all the concessions we've given to get to CUSMA, to get to NAFTA, we expect to get a tariff-free deal going forward.
What a fantastic day it's been today. That's it for today's report. That was by far the absolute best speech I've ever seen Pierre Poilievre deliver. We're about to see change in this country because millions upon millions of people have seen Pierre Poilievre provide solutions to the problems we currently have. It's only a matter of time. Share this video with every single Canadian that you know. It's time for change and we deserve it. I'll see you on the next report.